All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is President Shristi Bhatia. Thank you all for joining us today for the Queens College Student Election Presidential and Vice Presidential debates. I would now like to introduce you to Brandon Castro, who will be our moderator for the debates.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon Castro. It's a beautiful day. I hope everyone's having a great day so far. So today we're having our presidential and vice presidential debate. Over here you see William Barron and Luis Villa, who are both our presidential candidates.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. My name is William Barron, and I am running as candidate for your president of 2023 to 2024. Let me give you a little brief history about myself. I have been with student government for the last 4 years. I've also created a club for non-traditional students. I am aware of what the needs and issues of what's going on campus. And if you know me around, I'm sure many of you have seen my face, I'm always there for everyone. If I know something, I'll come to you or I'll get that answer to you. And I'll pass it over to my candidate.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luis Villa, and I have been in Queens College since 2019. This is my second bid for SA President to ensure changes within the organization itself, internally and externally, and also increase the awareness of Student Association due to the fact that in any college, not a lot of students know that Student Association is active within this campus, and I want to increase that for all students to be aware of what services and resources are available to them.
All right, so I'll be starting off with our very first question. You'll be starting off, Mr. William Barron. So question 1, why are you running? Why should students vote for you as the next SA president?
I'm glad you asked that question because that's been going through my head constantly over and over. Why? Why? Because I care. Since I've attended Queens College, that's all I've been doing is caring what goes on in the community, caring about what happens to students, not for now, but in the future also too. It was a great need for a lot of things. A lot of my accomplishments that I have done, from trying to get extra services in the library, from trying to get tutoring service. My resume shows the work that I have done, not for myself, but for the other students. Through the pandemic, we had the tutoring service, free tutoring service that I constructed and have where people can get their online and assistance that they need. Not even for that, even for non-traditional students, where they can feel a part of the community. And that's why I feel that I should be running, because I care. I care about the students here now and in the future.
So to repeat the question, why are you running? Why should students vote for you as the next SA president?
Since working in Student Association for 19, I've seen various issues and how COVID-19 changed everything and highlighted some of the issues students need and honestly deserve, because all the resources that are in the college are not known, and I want to advocate that and promote it for all students to ensure that they are able to receive these resources and support. Furthermore, I have been trying to be more proactive and promoting Student Association and have students know what's available to them.
All right, so for question 2, Louis, you will be starting off. So for the second question, what is your vision for SA going forward, and what would it look like under your leadership?
That's a great question. My vision is to completely change Student Association. We have a lack of the committees that not a lot of people know or have seen events throughout the campus. Now that has been changing for the better, but I want to continue that and do it 10 times over, because as long as Student Association is here, we're always going to be able to help students, but we must help ourselves internally and externally to ensure that we can give the best resources and support to all students.
Can you repeat the question, sir?
What is your vision for SA going forward? What would it look like under your leadership?
The word leadership means you're leading the people. But The leader needs to know what the people needs. Under my leadership, I expect to understand from non-traditional students to traditional students to ethnicity that goes on here, because being a leader, I'm not going to know unless I know what the people needs. So if I don't have this representation, everyone's representation of finding what their needs, what their interests are, then I can collaborate. Then I could come up with a game plan. I can move forward, and so forth on. So to state that what are my goals is, my goal is to go beyond, to get what the needs and services of every individual, to know what one wants, and to accommodate them. That I would like to see under my leadership.
Very good. We'll also be starting off with you again, William Barron. So for question 3, recently a Knight News article heavily criticized the current student life administration on this campus. What are your thoughts on the matter, and are there experiences with student life that you would like to address?
I'm sorry, can you give it, was like a little unclarity.
Sure. So recently a Knight News article heavily criticized the student life admin on this campus. What are your thoughts on the matter, and are there any experiences with student life that you would like to bring forward?
Yes, I would like to make a statement on that. One, I read that article, and I thought that was a one-track mind type of thing. It was just so inaccurate. Be involved in that, I know what goes on. And I felt if you're doing your investigation, you need to get all your facts straight. You cannot act on getting one thing. If you recall, that article says that one person, you don't do this, but then further down later on, it says, oh, yeah, they do these services. So there's some inconsistency with that reporter, and it's kind of sad that that reporter didn't do digitally on his, report. But what my feeling is that, as a leader, I'm not going to jump the gun until I have all my facts straight, until I get everything cleared. Because what that was in that article, I felt it was a little tactful against the administration, and they don't know. To clear that up, I would like to sit down with that person and explain everything and walk them through the process.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Sure. So recently a Knight News article heavily criticized the student life admin on this campus. What are your thoughts on the current matter, and what experiences with student life would you like to bring forward?
Firstly, in all articles, there's always going to be some form of, there's always going to be some form of miscommunication and misinformation. So I personally have not read the full article, but I do believe it's not accurate in a sense, and as well that student life has always been supportive. Even during COVID, with the limited staff and time available, they still supported students and clubs. For working with student life, I think the best bet, which is the best option, would be to just continue working on seeing where we can improve on, because no system is perfect. Not student association, not student life, not QC, but once we understand our flaws and get a sense of what to do, then we can move forward and help the students the best way possible.
So for the 4th question, we'll be starting off with you as well, Louis. So fellow student leaders and administration on many of the CUNY campuses are struggling with addressing student engagement and involvement. What are your thoughts on that matter, and how do you plan to increase student engagement on this campus?
That's a great question. Yes, as mentioned before, Student Association needs a complete overhaul with public relations and outreach. Some of my initiatives would be to actively go throughout the campus, promoting Student Association, talking to students on what their concerns or needs are, and also having a more presence on campus with public relations, the executive board, and just getting to know students and their everyday issues on the campus and how we can improve that with the support and resources.
Would you like me to repeat the question as
Yes,
well?
please, sir.
So fellow student leaders and administration on many of the other CUNY campuses are struggling with addressing student engagement and involvement. What are your thoughts on the matter, and how do you plan to increase student engagement on this campus?
Okay. Glad you asked that question, because that's one of my priorities things. So many different organizations, activities, clubs on campus, but they're not united, okay? We're not aware of this situation, we're not that. Communication is a horrible situation. We will have to be more present, more digital like that. We have to get out ourselves with the student associations, to get ourselves out there and to be more present. To go out there, to shake the Hillel Club, to go there, says, hey, what's going on? Hey, my name is William Barron. I am the president of the Student Association. You know, how can we make a person like that? Send out emails, walk around. What do you need? What are the things? Those are the things that we have to do. Sometimes we have to work backwards, okay, and not recreate the will, but try to work backwards and start making that will, start that movement again. Because some part, it must have stalled somewhere. Our communication is horrible once again. I think what we need to do is to try to do a whole big reboot of the whole system.
So for question 5, I'll be starting with you, Mr. William Barron. So how do you plan to engage adult, international, and evening and part-time students, otherwise known as non-traditional students?
My big, strongest thing on my top list. It has come to, it's very saddening that it appears with that population that it's hard. It's hard for that individual who maybe have children, single parenting, commuting, jobs. We have to try to make that much easier for them, that transition. Because traveling back and forth, well, I gotta go babysitter, da-da-da-da. We gotta make different ways for them. I have been working with Mr. Thorne in the library to get like a location center for studying where they can bring their family members with them while they're studying. Gotta try to make it easier for them. Because the problem is with that, is that they're forgotten and they get so frustrated, they get lost, and it's done. They wanna leave Queens College. I don't want them to leave. I want them to be here. I want them to have that pride, that Knight pride. And when they have that Knight pride, they're gonna succeed. So my goal is try to reach out that population, go to them, go to the military, go to the adults, go to the missions, find out who these people have things, talk to them, have these town meetings, have social gatherings with them. That's what they need. These are the services.
And I'll repeat the question for you, Mr. Luis Villa. How do you plan to engage adult, international, and evening and part-time students, otherwise known as non-traditional students?
Going back to the issue at large, for non-traditional students, I know most of them have either the evening classes or very late classes. The best way possible would be outreach through emails and communication-wise, because everyone has their own issues, and I want to address, and if there's address each one individually, but if there's a common issue that can be addressed as well, we could work on that, whether it's regarding resources or information needed. We can also offer that and also increase the non-traditional committee in student association.
All right, for our next question, I'll be starting off with you, Mr. Luis Villa. So more recently, there's been a large cause of concern for infrastructure and transportation accessibility, such as a lack of handicap shuttle buses and elevator malfunctions, and more. How do you plan to address these safety concerns?
If it's a continuous concern with the transportation, I believe that if the particular vendor is not accommodating to the students, then I would try to move forward with a whole different system that can better serve the students. Because why would we pay a vendor that doesn't want to accommodate all these students? Because that's not fair to students at large, not to them that need that transportation to get on campus, or even the ones that are trying to study and get to campus. And then as for the elevator malfunctions, that would have to be a larger discussion due to the fact that maybe new elevators or see what exactly the issue is or why it continuously malfunctions. Because there's always got to be a main issue that can be resolved.
And I'll repeat the question for you, Mr. William Barron.
Thank you.
More recently, there's been a large cause of concern for infrastructure and transportation accessibility, such as a lack of handicap shuttle buses, elevator maintenance, and more. How do you plan to address these safety concerns?
I would like to address it, sorry, if you can hear me. It's a problem. It's a major problem here on campus. And I'm not happy about it. I'm really not. Because I've seen it, I've been in it, and it has to change. These things that have to change are that seems like we are in the past. We're living in the Flintstone or the Stone Age. We need to moderate that. There's no reason why that the shuttle buses should not be not have a GPS. There should be no reason for the elevators like that. Maybe it's time to upchange them. But there's a process to go through that. And under my leadership or under my guidance, I would like to have like a special committee, an organization that will check this as the moderator and says, hey, what's going on? Get surveys out. Get a team that will go around the campus and say, where's the faults at? Because it is a process, because we're under contracts. I understand about those vendors. But we have to move, trying to stop patching things up and maybe get new things in. Get new elevators, get a new contract, get new buses, and hold them accountable for it. It's a shame.
All right, very well. William Barron, we'll be starting off with you. I would like to ask about your experience dealing with conflict. If applicable, how have you addressed or solved conflicts with fellow student leaders and or faculty?
Conflicts. Conflicts are really kind of hard. And you really have to get the timeline, the base, and hear a party, and be partial, and understand, and through the timeline of social events. You just can't say if it's Jane, and Jane's having an issue with Peter, and they can't clash and everything. You have to like sit down with them, do a one-on-one first, try to assess the situation. Then you can say, okay, maybe Jane's have some issues going on. It was let's find the interest with them. Sit down, talk about it, just like everyone else does. Someone's not happy, says, hey, let me go approach them. What's going on? How's everything? As a leader, you need to do that. And try to be before those conflicts, like to say, how's everything doing? What can I do to help you? What is the problems? Once you find that out, say, okay, let me work on that. Get them together, talk it out. Those are the ways that I would do that, and mediate it.
I'll repeat the question again for you, Mr. Ria. I'd like to ask about your experience dealing with conflict. If applicable, how have you addressed previous student conflict with student leaders or faculty and staff?
So this may be a flaw of my own, but mostly when I handle conflict, I'm usually quiet and just listen and just agree. That's not right, and I hold myself accountable now because I have allowed people to continue the conflict, continue their miscommunication and unprofessionalism, and just not address it ahead of time. For now, I believe the best way is to try the one-on-ones. Unfortunately, if that doesn't work and administration has to get involved, unfortunately, I will go that route. But for no longer, I will be accepting the, what's the right word? Accepting the behavior and disrespect or attitude from other individuals. And that's how I will handle conflict from now on.
Okay, moving on to our third to last question. We start off with you, Mr. Luis Villa. As students struggle to pay off their tuition and debts, they recently had to worry about being dropped from their classes. What direction should Queens College take to address these concerns?
I think Queens College definitely needs to address how its tuition system is, because not a lot of students are aware that there can be holds if there's a financial issue or a family concern. Because I had that issue before where tuition was being on hold, and I was risk of losing my classes, and I had to email multiple people to get the support. But students don't know that, and we need to make a system where it's heavily promoted, where the students know who to reach and where to reach for these specific concerns, whether it's tuition, financial aid, student services, or so forth. There has to be a system that, or actually a web page that can help the students navigate it in a 1, 2, 3 format.
I'll repeat the question for you, Mr. Barron. As
Yes.
students struggle to pay off their tuition and debts, they recently had to worry about being dropped from classes. What directions should Queens College take to address these concerns?
It's a major problem because I've seen it. A lot of students have came to me with this issue, how do I can get this resolved, or da-da-da-da. It's a major, I've heard it from the athletics, I didn't come in, this is happening, or my tuition come in, I'm losing this. It's a problem, it's very problematic. What I would love to do is, one, to get everyone on board, okay? If it's something holding up on financial aid, where this is the delay, should be not a reason for that student to drop it. You should hold that classes. You should wait and to say, okay, let's give them some time limit or something to see what we can do, rather than automatically, we're gonna drop them and get that student all frustrated. We're down in an enrollment here, and it shouldn't be. We should be number one. We are number one in my eyes. So for that to happen, to get people discouraged over that, and not having Queens College have some kind of policy or some plan to work together, because you got this department on this, you got that department over here, and you have another department over here, it's a problem. And we gotta work that out. We have to find some kind of solution to get everybody on board to come up with a plan. So this won't happen, and for our students to just disappear.
Very well. We'll be starting off with you on the second to last question here. What campus-wide issues do you want to address as soon as possible?
There's a lot. And I believe my major one, I believe I'm gonna go with the food service. I think food service is horrible here. Can't get a decent meal. Some people can't eat certain foods here. We're limited to things. It's horrible. I think that's the number one thing that I would like to change here, to get to work with a dietary for everyone. You know, we shouldn't have to be going outside the campus to look for food, going across the street and having pizza, or for halal food, you got the food truck. It should be different variety, hot food, not sandwiches. Sometimes give them a hot meal. And to extend that program also, not just in the day, but also for our evening students, where they're coming from work or from home or somewhere, and they're coming here and they just don't give it a chance to eat or anything like that. And then they have to sit in the classroom for 2 hours, and all they can do is probably get a cup of coffee or a soda or an energy drink. It's not right. It's not fair.
All right, and I'll repeat the question for you as well, Mr. Luis-Villa. What campus-wide issues do you want to address as soon as possible?
Some of these issues have already been mentioned, as in the earlier questions: the transportation, financial aid, the food services, as mentioned, and then also social outreach, and then lack of information and resources available. We need to get a head start on this, regardless of who's president for Student Association, because at the end of the day, it's not for the person's title or the money given. It's to ensure that every student has that great experience and can get the help they needed, regardless of their position, politics, or whatever they identify as. And that's why we need to get a foot into this and these issues.
All right, and for the last question here before the closing statements, I'm sorry. So what can you say about your respective running mate or who you're going up against? Starting with you, Luis.
They have great ideals. I have no negative feedback or anything against other candidates. And I wish the best of luck for the elections.
Would you like me to repeat the question as well?
No, I got that right. I have worked on many things with my opponent, and I always tell him, and he can vouch for that. If I own a 500 company, I would love to have you on board. Your ideals, you're enthusiastic, your passion, it's great. I wouldn't have anybody. And I wish him the great success. Even if I do not get this presidency, I know you guys are still in the right hands, because I know the work that he does. So I do have respect for him, and I applaud him for everything. So there's no malice, no nothing. I have great respect for this.
And for the closing statements, you will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. William, you will be starting off first.
Okay. I can go on why I want to be your president. I can give you a whole list, but I have a minute. It's not a lot. But I can tell you one thing. I care. I care about each and every one individual. If I'm walking across campus, I get stopped. I'm always late getting to class sometimes because this person's stopping. Oh, This has happened at me, blah, 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 blah. Oh, the library did this. Okay, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, man. Blah, 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 blah. Walk a couple feet, da, da, da. I'm there for you guys. I'm always gonna be there for you, even if I don't have that presidency. But I just wanna let you know, when it comes to that day, when it comes to voting, I want you to vote for the right candidate. Not because it's your friend, or you've seen them, or you sat next to your class, or whatever. I want you to vote who's gonna lead, not just as today, but for the future also. Because that's what counts. And that's all I have to say.
So, working with Student Association, I have always stayed late to the office, and even if any student comes in like literally 30 minutes before closing, I would give them the best help possible. I know throughout this debate I have stuttered a bit, but I know what's wrong with the campus and what needs to be resolved in terms of the concerns that are needed for students. I'm not asking to vote based on my performance, but I'm asking your vote for my ideals and what I could get done if I elected as president, and if I could get your vote.
Thank you to the both of you. You guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, the Queens College campus. Today we have our vice presidential debates going on. Behind me, you will find two of our vice presidential candidates, Brandon Adam and Tatiana. I forgot her last name. I apologize about that. But yes, today's going to be great. We'll be starting off, each candidate will get 1 minute to have an opening and a closing statement, and I'll be asking a couple of the questions. Thank you very much. Give me one moment. All right, so we will allow you to make the opening statement. You have 1 minute each. Brandon, you may go first.
May I remove this? Okay. Good evening. Good afternoon. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day so far. Just to give you some information about myself, I'm a commuter student. I come from Dominican heritage, and I genuinely, I've been in this school, I've been in this campus, I've been around, and I really want to see growth. I want to see structure. I want to see Queens College go to the next level. And that's my overall goal.
Tatiana, you have 1 minute to make your opening statement.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tatiana Romero, and I am running for VP because I really want to see change. I think change is really what we need right now. And as someone that has been vice president of 3 clubs before this, I think that I'm the person that's prepared to give that change. Thank you.
So we'll be starting off with question number 1. Brandon will be starting off with you. So we'll be having some similar questions to the previous debate. So why are you running, and what experiences prepare you for this role?
I'm running because I know that we can do it, and we can make it. There's not, I haven't seen a lot of movement on campus in terms of change, and that's something that I really need to see more of. I want to see more of that change. I feel like a lot of things that have happened have prepared me for this. For example, me just speaking to every student who I can, honestly. In the beginning of the semester, I would just sit at random people. Hey, is it okay if I could sit here, speak to them? I would chat with them, talk about campus life. And in addition, I look at behaviors. As somebody who has DJ'd multiple events on campus, I observe people, I speak with people, I try to understand where they're coming from, what they're doing. Thank you.
I'll repeat the question for you as well. So why are you running, and what experiences prepare you for this role?
Like I said before, I'm running for change. I wasn't really going to run. I decided to run because, as you know, I basically assist in running 3 clubs. I'm secretary of Broadcasting Club, which is a fairly new club. I'm vice president of My Earth Club and Volleyball Club. And all of these clubs have had their similar issues. And I've had issues with other clubs that I'm not the head of, but unfortunately, because I'm not the head of them, I can't do anything about it. Sorry. Due to this, I've seen things with SA that I think need to be a little bit better. To be honest, the communication has not been good, and I think that SA can do better in helping its clubs and helping its students, and that's why I wanted to run. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to change the way that SA is seen, and I wanted to change the way that SA does things. So that's why I ran.
All right, and for the second question, we'll be starting off with you as well. So why did you choose the role of vice president over president?
I chose the role of vice president because, to be quite honest, I'm not power hungry. I don't want to be president just for the power. I don't want to be vice president just for the power. I want to be able to make change. And I could understand and recognize that there is a lot of responsibility that comes with being president. And I, unfortunately, don't think that I'm ready for that type of responsibility. But I think the amount of responsibility that comes with vice president, I am prepared for, given that I have done it already twice. And I understand that SA is a really big task. It is much more than just running the simple broadcasting or anime club. I know that it's going to be a lot, and I am prepared for that because I have gone through so much and experienced so much that I think I am prepared to do this. Thank you.
Brennan, I'll repeat the question for you. Why did you choose the role of vice president over president?
I chose the role for vice president over president because I prefer being vice president. You know, me personally, I know the president role, it can sometimes get a little hectic. So I prefer to be there for the president and support their decisions and, you know, try my best to advise them and help them. But in addition, I do want to see change that I will help bring, like inclusion for all students. Many commuter students come here and they don't get a chance to kind of do anything besides schoolwork and besides go to classes. I feel like that should change.
Question 3 will be starting over with you, Brandon. So please briefly describe your previous leadership experience. You can involve your past experiences in SA, clubs, and other organizations and extracurricular activities.
All right. My previous leadership experience, I'm not gonna lie, I don't have much, but I have a strong leadership experience DJing events on campus. As a DJ, you need to go, you need to navigate, manage people. You have to tell somebody, you have to communicate. Communication is incredibly important because without communication, nothing will get done. And aside from that, I have a growth group at church where I help people going into high school to try to navigate their life while they're going through it.
I'll repeat the question for you as well. Please briefly describe your previous leadership experience. You can involve your past experiences in SA, clubs, and other organizations.
I first want to say I admire that you work at a youth group. I actually attended a youth group in my teenage years, so I really admire that. I've had a lot of leadership experience. In high school, I created the Environmental Science Club because we did not have one, and I was very much a big activist on climate change, and I am an environmental science major. I also was president of the Conspiracy Theory Club. It was just a fun club that I wanted to do. And currently, as I said before, I am Secretary of Broadcasting Club, which was a lot because this was a club that has been inactive since 2020 after COVID. The past leaders left, and we were just left with this discombobulated club that we just kind of had to, pull from the roots up and fix it. And I'm also vice president of Volleyball Club, which was another club that we faced a lot of scrutiny for because the gym was not as communicative with us about timing and using the gym. And I'm also vice president of, again, My Earth Club, big Earth fan.
All right, so this next question is going to be quite a load, so I'm going to go as slow as I can. So students have expressed concerns about many issues on this campus, such as being dropped from classes, travel accessibility for disabled students, sorry about that, and a lack of food services and more. Can you speak about any of these or any other issues you have experienced?
If I'm not mistaken, you said disability issues, financial aid, and food? Yes. Correct? Okay, well, I can speak on all of those. For financial aid, I am someone that comes from a low-income household. I'm also a commuter, so yes, I get it. It's a struggle. Literally last week, I was having trouble applying for classes because they wanted payment for the summer, even though they don't need that payment right now. I was lucky enough that I was able to find what I need and email them, and they were communicative and were able to drop that hold, and I was able to get the classes that I wanted. But I truly understand the struggle, because it's hard when you don't actually have the finances to afford that. And for the same thing with the disability, I myself get special services, I get extra time. I also struggle with things that I will not, say right now. So I, of course, understand where you're coming from there. And with dietary restrictions, I also have that. So I totally understand. And if that's an issue that a lot of people are saying is here, and I can see it myself, and I'm going to do my best to work on it and help them through it.
All right, Brandon, I'll repeat the question for you as well. So students have expressed concerns about many issues on this campus, such as being dropped from classes, travel accessibility for disabled students, and a lack of food services and more. Can you speak about any of these or any other issues you have experienced?
Do you think you could repeat the question, please?
Sure. So students have expressed concerns about many issues on this campus, such as financial aid, travel accessibility for disabled students, and a lack of food services and more. Can you speak about any of these or any other issues you have experienced?
Yes, I can. I believe the only real way, or the first step to take in improving the food, everything else. The first real step to take is communication. Everything takes communication. And there's no way we could do anything in regards to that without having a better foundation for communication. For example, bettering the website, because I feel like the website could do a lot better than it does right now. I feel like it could. And in regards to the food, we need to take the first step in order to take the second. And that's what I'm leaving with.
All right. So for this next question, I'll be starting off with you as well.
Yes.
Fellow student leaders and administration on many of the other CUNY campuses have struggled to address student engagement and involvement. How do you plan to increase student engagement on this campus?
I plan to provide, I want to provide spaces for every student on campus. I don't want to leave anybody out, because when you commute 40 minutes a day to a college to go on it, you're gonna be so unlikely to interact base level. But once you see, for example, let's say you're a minority. Let's say, for example, you see a Guyanese flag and you're Guyanese. You're gonna be a lot more likely to say, wait a second, I'm gonna check this out. So I feel like we don't have enough of that. We don't have enough of, oh, come in, let's talk. We don't have enough engagement. And the only way to improve our engagement is to improve our inclusion.
Restate it, thank you.
Got it. So fellow student leaders and administration on many of the other CUNY campuses have struggled to address student engagement and involvement. How do you plan to raise student engagement on this campus?
So I think the main issue with engagement that I've noticed is communication, and to be quite honest, I've talked to many students that I've literally said, hey, I'm gonna run for vice president. You're like, what do you think about that? And they would just go, vice president of what? I go, of SA. What's SA? They don't even know who we are. So I think that's a major issue, the fact that half of the students that I've talked to don't really even know what student association does, and I had to sit there and explain it to them. I think that we can do better with that, in my personal opinion, by utilizing our clubs that we have. I know you talked briefly about Night News and how they made a quote-unquote slanderous article. I haven't read it myself, so I don't know for sure. But we could be using Night News, how it should be used, to say the events that are going on campus and what SA is doing. The same thing with the Broadcasting Club, because that's what we're here for and that's what we're trying to do. But I do feel that there is a lack of communication and connection between the clubs and SA. And if we breach that connection together, then everyone can actually know what's going on, and they will have an area to look at what's going on.
So for this next question, we'll be starting off with you. How do you plan on ensuring effective communication and leadership to properly represent the student body and their various concerns?
Oh, well, I kind of already said this, but I'm sorry, I'm jumping your questions. Yeah, I definitely feel like we have to have more of a bond between clubs and SA, because I think the real issue why there isn't enough engagement is because students just genuinely don't know what's going on. My personal opinion, like for something that I wanted to do, was I wanted to do a multicultural day where we do this big festival and this big show of everyone showing their culture and their cultural dances or cultural garbs. I've seen so many other schools do it, and I went, why don't we do that? That's so interesting, and we have so much diversity on campus. Why don't we act on that? But we can't act on that unless students actually know what's happening. I feel sadly a lot of fun events happen that students are not aware of, and we need to utilize what we have at this school, such as our clubs, to make students aware of these fun events that they could be attending.
I'll repeat the question as well. How do you plan on ensuring effective communication and leadership to properly represent the student body and their various concerns?
I think there should be multiple people going around campus around certain times, verbally promoting the student union, the student association, and whatever events. I don't think people stop and look at flyers every single time they walk past it. In addition, I have another idea where we could implement QR codes around the campus, but around the campus areas where people mostly go. So I don't want to see a QR code, for example, next to the bathroom in Kylie Hall. I want to go to the library, see a QR code saying student union to the Instagram. That way, that will promote people to see us more and understand what we're about and go to more events.
All right. Do you have any long-term plans or goals you would like to implement under your vice presidential term?
Yes, I do. I actually want to, as I said, I seriously want to see us go to the next level. And that's not, going to the next level is more difficult than it seems. It's more complicated than it seems. Because everything needs to go to the next level. It can't just be one part, one segment of association. It has to be everything. So for that to happen, we need to improve on everything. Regardless if it's good, that's my goal.
All right. And do you have any long-term plans or goals you would like to implement under your vice presidential term?
Like I said, I have many things that I would like to do. A lot of it is event-based because I really love fun social events, and I feel like we need more of that. I really feel like we need more dances, we need more events, more shows, and I think that that is what brings the community together. We need that sense of community. What I really want to do, my main goal is change. My main goal is making sure that we are all communicating and we're all on the same page, and that it feels more like a community, because unfortunately, I think where CUNYs start to struggle is that there's not a community, because we have commuters, we have dorms, we have people that are foreign students, like you said before, international. And I think too, we should make an entire event for those international students, as I've seen many other schools do that we don't. I think we need to, promote this inclusivity. We have it, but I don't feel like we promote it enough. I don't feel like we say, you are welcomed here enough.
All right. How do you see yourself interacting with faculty and engaging in meetings with QC administrators?
I mean, in pertainance to interacting with staff and you said faculty? I mean, I already have my fair share of interacting with faculty, and I unfortunately have had some issues with certain faculty. I feel that if you don't really state your ground, if you don't stand your ground enough, sometimes they kind of take you for granted. They don't really understand that what you're asking for is difficult, and that you understand it's difficult, but you really need their help. And I feel like a lot of faculty don't really get to that level of understanding with the students and with us as SA. So I would really promote not necessarily a stern, but definitely a, standing your ground attitude, saying that, we're going to listen to you and we're going to hear you out, and we're obviously going to be respectful, but we are going to stand our ground based on what we need to see, the change that we need, and what we want to be done for our students.
All right, Brandon, how do you see yourself interacting with faculty and engaging in meetings with QC admin?
I'm gonna say this, I love interacting with faculty. I really love it. It's a learning experience every time I do. Sometimes it's teaching me something that I have to be more firm when I say something, or sometimes it's a learning experience in the way where I learn something new that I didn't know, which just shows me that we need to promote that more. But aside from that, I interact a lot with faculty. I find myself doing as I play music for events. Like, for example, during the first Black Cultural Night at Queens College, I had a lot of interaction with much of the staff, and I think they were lovely people. But I also see points where we can improve upon. Oh, points like the communication. That's an obvious one, the communication. And not only the communication, but the sharing of information. Information isn't always, they assume that you know things that you don't know sometimes. Like going to the library without an ID. Let's say if you forget your ID at home, you put it in the wrong jacket. You go in with your Clear 4, which says you have access to Queens College, and you're not allowed into the library. Mind you, if you have to study for a test, they don't care.
So we have 2 more questions coming up. So for the second to last one, what campus-wide issues do you want to address as soon as possible?
Can you repeat that, please?
What campus-wide issues do you want to address as soon as possible?
A campus-wide issue I want to address as soon as possible. That's a lovely question, if I might say. I feel like we really need to improve upon our capability to share information. I feel like that's a campus-wide issue that affects every single student, because nobody comes into campus knowing everything. And they spend most of their years not knowing a lot of things on campus. I feel like that needs to change.
So what campus-wide issues do you want to address as soon as possible?
I totally agree with my opponent on that. The communication really needs to improve, but I also feel like we need to have a level of understanding. You can communicate all you want, but you cannot have communication unless you have understanding, all right? If I'm talking to you in Spanish and you don't speak Spanish, you're not gonna know what I'm saying. I'm communicating to you, you're listening, but you have no clue what I'm saying. But I think also another issue, as mentioned in the previous debates, maintenance. I think that's a big issue because I have a personal experience. In the anime club room, there's black mold, and that is unacceptable, and I think we need to do something about that because I'm pretty sure that's, not good for you. As someone that studies the environment, it's not good for you. So I think that's one of those issues where it really needs to be addressed, and I think that is considered a maintenance issue, so I think that's something that we can improve on as well.
All right, now for the last question here, what can you say about your opposing running mate? Sorry, the question is worded very weirdly on my end, but
All right.
yeah, you got it.
I will say, I think, you got gusto. You're very extroverted. I like that. I would say that, I relate to you. I think we have a lot in common. I'm also a commuter. I'm Puerto Rican, so I think we have a lot in common, and I think it's funny that we kind of have 2 of the same people up here. So, sorry, voters, it's going to be kind of hard. But no, I think I admire your courage for coming up here, and thank you for being a good opponent.
First and foremost, I have to say thank you. Second, I think she's a lovely young lady. I think she's, I find us to have a lot in common. Like, I watch anime. And in addition to that, you say you study the environment. I have a turtle, I have fish. I like to take care of all of that. And I like that. I admire that.
Thank you.
And I think you're a nice person to have as an opponent.
Thank you.
All right, now for closing statements, both of you will have 1 minute each. Brandon, I will start with you.
Thank you. For my closing statement, I'm gonna just say I feel like me being elected vice president would bring a lot of change to campus, and it would bring good change because there's 2 kinds of change. I feel like no matter what happens, we need to improve. And honestly, I love the campus. I love it. But I would love it even more if we all work together to make it better for every student, not just Summit residents or, I don't know. But I would love it if it was a lot better.
I want to say foremost, thank you for giving me your time today. I know you did not have to come here, you did not have to watch it, so I thank you for that. And I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm going to tell you to vote for whoever you want. If you think that I would be a better candidate, if you think that he would be a better candidate, you vote for him. It's all right. But I will assure you that I am passionate about this, and I hope that my debate today showed that. So if you vote for me, I promise that I will make change. But you vote for whoever you want. Thank you.
First, I'd say thank you very much to both of the vice presidential candidates, and I'd also like to announce that the Student Association elections will take place after we come back from spring break from April 16th to 20th. Thank you again, everyone.